Hello everybody, this is Below the 38, Football and Adventures in South Korea. This is a slightly unique show for you this week as we preview K-Leagues 1 and K-League 2 separately, but on the same podcast. Luke is on gardening leave still. He's in the Mediterranean looking for a new podcast to join. Mike did send us in his K-League 2 preview from his bedroom before he boarded a flight to Canada, so they will not be on the podcast after today for the next couple of weeks. My name is Andrew, and I will be here to take you through K-League 1. And as I said, we will have an input from Mike, the second part of this show. So just a reminder for you, our website is below38korea.com. There will be a link to that as ever in the description. And amongst other things on our website, you can find the fourth round Korea Cup draw. We have the draw as soon as the fixtures are announced, plus predictions in the days leading up to each round. So the next round of fixtures in the Korea Cup is Wednesday, August the 19th, I believe. It's always going to be Wednesday from here on in until the final, unfortunately, but we will have predictions and, of course, the schedule or the fixture list on our website, below38korea.com. Let's get straight into it, shall we? This is a big weekend of K-League 1. We don't always say that because FC Seoul have been running away with this for a while. Gwangju are bottom and look like they're going to stay bottom. A lot of the interest in K-League 1 to this point has been who can finish second, what's happening to Ulsan and Jeonbuk, and also who will make up the last spot or the last remaining spots in Final A, because at the moment there's 4 teams, you'd have to say, in contention to finish 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. It's match week 21 of 33. There are 6 matches as ever. They are evenly spread between Saturday and Sunday, and all 6 fixtures will kick off at 7:30. As the heat wave continues here in Korea, the daily messages to not drink coffee or beer and drink loads of water continue. Now, instead of looking at the table in advance like we might normally do, because a lot of the league placings will be affected by what happens on Saturday, often on Saturday and Sunday, often by one team going against another and they're both close to each other in the table. There could be some significant changes to the table when we return for the weekend that was next week. So let's just look at the fixtures and then maybe have a quick look at the table as we're going through it. We start with Gangwon FC. They host Busan FC 1995. Gangwon are looking to bounce back after a very rare defeat last weekend. They lost 2-1 in Anyang. They nearly came back to draw the game 2-2 after being 2-0 down well past the 90th minute. Their championship hopes were already slim. You'd have to say that they're probably gone now. However, a win will keep the pressure on Seoul, even if Seoul pick up points in Jeonju, as we'll get on to later. Busan are 10 points clear of Gwangju. They are safe. So for Busan, it's merely a case of how high up the table can they finish? Can they finish above Daejeon Citizen and Gimcheon Sangmu, who are in that kind of region between 9, 10 and 11 with Busan at the moment. Busan had a good win midweek in the Cup. They were taken to about the 89th minute by Paju before eventually going on to win 3-0 with 3 very, very late goals. Still, they are through to the next round of the FA Cup. And so are Gangwon. Gangwon weren't playing. They received a bye, but they'll both be in action in August. Prediction for this one, it's hard to see anything other than the Gangwon win. So I'm going to go Gangwon 2, Busan FC 1995 0. Then we head down the coast to Pohang, where the Steelers welcome Gimcheon Sangmu. I don't think many people would have expected this to be a bottom half of the table match when the fixtures were announced sometime in winter. It hasn't been a great season for Pohang, and they've just lost 3 in a row. Gimcheon are already relegated, as we've been saying all year. It doesn't matter where they finish. The team, Sangmu, is leaving Gimcheon, so even though they're not bottom, they will be relegated. They're tough to beat. Their away form is quite good. But recent seasons they've probably, I don't know how you could say, they're probably overachieved over the last couple of seasons, whereas this season it feels like they're very much underachieving. Hard to know where this one could go. Pohang's title hopes are over after those 3 defeats in a row. Gimcheon they basically have nothing to play for now because they're already relegated. So how about a 1-1 draw in Pohang, mainly because Gimcheon's away form is quite good. Finally on Saturday, and it's the big game of the weekend, one we've been waiting for a long time. It's second place Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors hosting first place FC Seoul. Now the gap is currently 9 points. And Seoul's goal scored record is so superior to Jeonbuk's at the moment that it might as well be 10. Jeonbuk simply cannot afford to lose this game. They lost the previous meeting between the two sides in Sangam 1-0 thanks to Patrick Lamala's late winner. But including the FA Cup midweek, the Korea Cup against Busan I Park, Seoul have lost 2 in a row, having lost 3-1 at home to Ulsan HD last weekend. It's a rare drop in form for them. It still feels like the title is very much theirs, even if they don't pick up all 3 points or even a single point in Gwangju on Saturday. So this is a game that this is a game that Jeonbuk absolutely need to win. Whereas for Seoul, a draw is fine, and I don't think a defeat's going to be the end of the world. So, going to go for Jeonbuk 2, FC Seoul 0. Then we move on to Sunday. Nice fixtures on Sunday. We'll start in Jeju Island, where the home team have been sneaking under the radar in recent weeks. They boast the longest current unbeaten record in K-League 1, and somehow Jeju are only a single point outside Final A, basically the top 6. That's despite the fact that they just cannot score enough goals in this division. This, of course, is some turnaround after last year finishing 11th and avoiding relegation by beating the Blue Wings in the relegation promotion decider. Incheon followed up 2 straight losses with 2 straight wins before a weekend draw with Bucheon. Both teams were in action midweek. Jeju were taken to penalties by K-League 2 side Hwasung. Incheon lost at home to Gimpo FC. It's hard to imagine there be too much significance placed on those results when these two sides meet on Sunday. I have a feeling that Incheon are going to be beaten here 2-1, which will help Jeju, or which will mean that Jeju are going to leapfrog Incheon in the table. It is one of those fixtures that has that little bit of extra significance because, as I said, if Jeju win, they will go ahead of Incheon in the table. Elsewhere on Sunday, Gwangju, they travel to Daejeon, knowing that their hopes of finishing anywhere other than 12th are probably over. They've had a set of fixtures recently where if they were to mount a late season revival, you would have expected them to pick up points in those games, but they haven't. They remain 12th. With just 1 win all season and a gap now at 10 points, they've shown no form at any point this year to suggest that they can make up the points and catch one of the trio of clubs that are on 20 points above them. Daejeon are one of those clubs on 20 points, just ahead of Gwangju in the table. They were beaten again last weekend. Their season goes from bad to worse. Somehow they haven't made a managerial change like a lot of us would have expected by now, and somehow they haven't won a home match in 2026. That's despite finishing 2nd in K-League 1 last year. A draw. This looks like a draw, which will please neither side and neither of the two fan bases. And finally to Munsu. Can't wait for this one. Ulsan host Anyang for the Thomas Wayde Kote Cup. Ulsan were woefully out of form before a surprising 3-0 win in Seoul last weekend. They, of course, followed that up with Korea Cup elimination by K3 side Ulsan Citizen from the same city. The two sides had never played against each other before. Ulsan Citizen now have a perfect 1-1 record against Ulsan HD. Amazing stuff. Anyang are banging form at the moment, and they know that a win in Munsu, and they've won in Munsu before, and their away record is quite good this season. That will see them leapfrog Ulsan in the table. Same situation as Jeju. And Incheon, Anyang continue to lose players, as we've said on these shows before. One of those players, Thomas, is now with Ulsan. It would be an extraordinary turn of events if Anyang can go above Ulsan in the table this weekend. I don't think they will. I think this is going to end in a draw, a score draw, 2-2 is my prediction. But they're the fixtures. Seems like it's a good set of fixtures. I mean, the standout one is obviously Jeonbuk versus Seoul. We will know if we still have just a tiniest of championship races on Saturday night. We need Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors to win that game. I also like that game in Munsu between Ulsan and Anyang, and Jeju Incheon could be pretty fun as well. So yeah, they're the K-League 1 fixtures for this coming weekend. This had 3 on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and we will be reviewing all 6 of those matches on the weekend that was early next week. Now, let's head over to K-League 2, and Mike, before he jumped on an airplane to Canada, this is what he had to say.
So yes, on to another weekend of the K2, and after the weekend that changed everything, things aren't quite as tasty this coming weekend. Also, no Friday games, it's pure Saturday, Sunday. So let's just have a quick look through. And there are a couple of standout fixtures. Asan Songnam has become a bit of an upper mid-table clash. Be a long shout for either of these guys to make the playoffs, but Songnam have managed to be a thorn in many teams' side, and Asan have been, for the most part, fairly decent this season. That might be a good game. Chanan City play Yongin, something of a localish derby. Maybe it has draw nailed on. And then Suwon Blue Wings travel to perennial draw merchants Gwangju. Now Blue Wings are coming off that massive 4-1 victory over Busan last weekend, and they're going to want to, of course, continue that momentum and get some goals. Gwangju, though, and the curse of the draw, potential banana skin for Blue Wings, and the real story here is, can Suwon actually build on what's happened and continue that momentum? And the biggest clash, of course, perhaps of the whole weekend, also comes on the Saturday with Hwasung hosting Daegu. Now, last weekend, of course, Hwasung firmly established themselves back into the top 6 after they've had 2 wins on the bounce, but they also had those 2 defeats prior. Daegu haven't won in 2, so they've been somewhat falling, but they're only 4 points off the top. Hwasung only 5 points off the top. A draw here helps neither of these teams. Again, they both look like they're going to finish top 6 at this stage, but a win could transform either of their seasons hugely and really put them into that. Well, basically, they can still be considered title challenges if either of these can win this game. That has got to be the pick of the K2 round. And moving on to the Sunday, we've got a bottom of the table clash. Now, Ansan hosts Gimhae. Ansan have won 2 games in their last 3, which is a somewhat unprecedented, really, for the past few years. They could make that 3 wins in 4 as they host bottom of the table Gimhae. They beat them 4-1 early in the season, but Gimhae have shown that they can play in this league, so that's not an absolutely nailed on result. And then Busan, they lost out last weekend, while Seoul Eland have returned to some fairly decent form despite that blip against Gwangju before the World Cup break. Busan really need a win. They have an opportunity here, but I've got an awful feeling that Busan's unravelling may well continue here, and we may well push Seoul Eland level with them, and perhaps even worse for Busan is if they lose this by 2, Eland will actually go above them. This could be an almighty collapse this weekend for Busan IPOC. They probably need to not just fend off Seoul Eland with a draw, but get a win as well. So that's another massively exciting fixture in the K2 this weekend. Gimpo, they host Gyeongnam. Gimpo, they're in 7th, they're 5 points off. A win here, and with Daegu and Hwasung 5th and 6th playing respectively, and that could put them back in touching distance of the playoffs. I'm not quite sure they'll make it, and we know they don't win at home. And Gyeongnam, they've picked up a few standout wins in recent times. It's propelled them up to 9th and just 2 points behind Gimpo as well. I think this could be the game that, again, creates even more space between 6th and 7th. Of course, it depends what happens between Hwasung and Daegu. And of course, finishing up that round of fixtures, Jeonnam host Paju Frontier, 14th versus 16th. It's not a hugely exciting clash, but Jeonnam have only lost 1 in their last 5. They'll want to continue finding a way of at least finishing, getting away from that bottom. They're only 3 points ahead of Gimhae, who actually have a game in hand. Jeonnam, former K-League 1 side, will not want to finish bottom of the K-League 2, will they? They've seen how Songnam have struggled. And even when they've tried to rebuild, they ultimately Songnam, so probably the closest they've ever been since they got relegated last season. Jeonnam will be looking at that and thinking, this could well be their level unless they're going to expand the K-League 1 even further. So, again, another exciting weekend. I don't think things will change fundamentally across the entire league, but that top 6 is going to continue shifting up and down. Big fixtures to look out for. Saturday, Hwasung hosting Daegu. And then Sunday, you've got, of course, Busan hosting Seoul Eland. Both of those well worth a watch. Win, lose or draw, it will be massive for that top 6.
Thank you for joining us this week. That's all we have time for. Stay tuned to belowthe38thcareer.com or at belowthe38th on social media. We've got lots of updates, news, previews, and reactions to games happening this weekend. Thank you very much. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you soon.